okay. That's a part of the problem. And I don't think we can force everyone to just sit alone with a thought, which means AI can help in some of this, okay? And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But there are a lot of fears and misconceptions about how AI is going to stifle human creativity. And it absolutely can, if human creativity allows it to.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Culture Based Podcast. I'm Dustin, he's Blake. Episode 73. Today we're going to wrap up our 3-week series on AI and team culture. Specifically today, how AI can inspire creativity. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that you can find us on social media platforms at the Culture Base, BASE. You can find us online at theculturebase.com. And while you're there, you can click on the Let's Chat button and we can schedule a time to talk about how we can help you know what you're about, show where you're going, and develop a scalable team to get there, because that's what we're all about here at the Culture Base. Also, while you're there, everybody loves free stuff. Go and get yourself some free stuff at theculturebase.com/resources, including our free ebook, The Scalability Playbook. It is proven methods for building high-performance teams. This is stuff that we've gathered from other organizations and organizations that we've been involved in over the years. And this is great content as you're starting out your new year and getting into some new rhythms. Highly encourage you to check that out. Go to theculturebase.com/resources. If you're watching on YouTube, we're so glad that you're here. Would love a like, subscribe, and ring the bell 3-in-1 action. If you're listening to this on an audio podcast platform, would love for you to rate a review however your platform allows. Let's get into it, Blake. Today, we're going to talk about how AI can inspire creativity. And just like every episode, there's a problem that we're trying to solve here in this episode, because we want to be practical. We don't want to just kind of go, hey, you should think about, move on. But there's a problem we're trying to solve. And so let's get into that problem today. Can I just say first, before we dive in, what I love about the problem being on an episode about creativity is I adapted, I think it was Todd Henry that said this, or at least that I first heard about it a long time ago, where he says creativity is problem solving, nothing more, nothing less. And so if we're talking about creativity and how to use AI in our creativity, specifically in our team cultures, and we're talking about the problem, these are the problems that we're trying to solve with creativity. Go for it, Blake.
Very good. I also want to say that take Einstein, for example. He has and I'm going to butcher this quote, so it's not quote. This is a paraphrase. Okay. But he says that if you have a problem and you have 8 hours to solve the problem, you should probably spend about 7 hours identifying and understanding the problem and 1 hour solving it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we don't understand the big problem. We understand the parts and the pieces and don't even think about it. We just jump in and take action, and we solve the wrong thing, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Exactly.
Like, I wasn't finished done explaining. Okay, well, you're going to fall off the cliff.
Exactly. Now, we're diving into AI here and creativity, which those two together make people cringe, right? Like that crinkling paper on the outside of food that makes people like itch. That's what happens when you talk about creativity and AI. But I think one of the important parts here is the word that we are honing in here is not AI and it's not creativity. It's the word inspire. Okay. The whole idea is an inspiration unto creativity, not that it's creating everything for you. You are a part of the equation. Okay. Right. And that's not the brand new thing we're saying here today. We've said that the last 2 episodes. It's been really important to understand that you are a part of this. But the problem is creativity is hard. Problem solving is hard when we just jump in and we don't think. Like, and this is probably going to be my argument to using AI in a lot of things, is our problem is that we don't give problem solving enough time. We won't sit alone with these thoughts. We won't dig into things. I don't remember who said it, an old philosopher said that all of man's problems come from his inability to sit alone with a thought. Okay, that's a part of the problem. And I don't think we can force everyone to just sit alone with a thought, which means AI can help in some of this, okay? And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But there are a lot of fears and misconceptions about how AI is going to stifle human creativity. And it absolutely can, if human creativity allows it to. Okay, so that's going to be one of the big things I say here, is that humans still have the control of the use of AI. Okay, so it is your decision to choose something over something, right? Like that's yours. So the next problem is there's a difficulty in establishing and maintaining an innovation friendly culture when it comes to like creativity and AI and stuff. Like we have a hard time establishing a culture that says, yeah, you know what, this kind of back and forth innovation is okay. We tend to like, especially where AI gets underutilized most, it's usually in creative tools, in creative aspects. Because, and Dustin said this in the last episode, he said creatives are probably the most resistant to this because it's their art, it's their thing. Like this can't take away from that. It's personal, right? Like, and so, but I would say the same's true for analytical. Isn't their art in their analyzing of data and doing certain things?
Right.
But there are supporting pieces that help get us there quicker and start solving different problems. Okay. One thing I would even say sometimes about the way we are with our art is that we're solving the same problem over and over. Maybe AI is going to help with the other side, that we start solving a bigger problem, a different problem, right? So, and I think the other problem here is that the integration challenges between human creativity and AI capabilities. I think when we see this right now, at least, as anything other than supplementation, that's where we're giving up our creativity, right? When we say, I don't want to think about this. I don't want to do this. Just go ahead and do this. Oh, great. Look at what I created. You let something else do that. Nobody is going to take this from us. We give it up. Okay. Yeah. It's really up to you. How much are you willing to give up?
That's really good. Your quote earlier, by the way, is Blaise Pascal. All of humans' problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
It is. Oh, Blaise.
Old Blaise. Look at him go. All right.
Good mustache.
Ooh, killer.
Actually, I don't think that's true.
Oh, well, I mean, there's nothing like a good mustache. Let's get into the solution for these problems today. All right. I love our solutions today. I'm the action guy. I want to make sure we're getting our action steps in here and really kind of start to go, okay, yeah, that's great. That's the problem, but what can I do about it? So we have a couple things to share with you today on how you can use AI to enhance, not take over, your creativity. And the first one is to create AI and human innovation labs. So you have labs for scientists, or you have labs for developing certain pieces of software. You have labs for developing or R&D. Have a lab, whether it's a physical or a digital space or a time marked out on the calendar for you to have some innovation and exploration with AI. You could use it for some brainstorming if you need to, for prompts. We're going to talk about that in a second. Or you could have humans refine and develop those ideas further. It's really good implementation with AI. You can develop an innovation mentorship program where a tech-savvy team member who really knows AI can come in and help guide some of the creative work that you might be doing, and how some people that are a little bit less confident with technology. You can implement a creativity-first AI policy. My policy right here. This clearly defines the role as a support tool, which we've said over and over and over again during this series, rather than a replacement for human creativity. If it's not written down, I know, but like, well, one more policy. You better get clear about it, or else people aren't going to know where the boundaries are. And despite what they say, creatives love boundaries. So give it to them. Lastly, the solution: establish regular creative cross training sessions where teams can practice combining some of the AI capabilities with human creativity on low stake projects. So we have the labs. That's like not a project at all. We're just testing things and exploring, right? Then we have these cross training sessions where it's like, these are a little bit low hanging fruit. Let's see what AI can produce. Let's see what we can help with. Let's see how they can enhance what we've already come up with in our brains and our human brains, the Jeremy Cowart actual intelligence, right? See what we can come up with here, then let's dump it into there and let's see what we can do together. We talked a lot about that on our last episode with collaboration, but doing this specifically with your creativity can elevate it to a whole nother level. Anything else, Blake? He just shakes no when he says this. It doesn't do anything for our people that are listening, but I'll tell you that he just said no. Let's get into the solution. Oh, we just did the solution. Let's get into the action steps. These buttons, man, I got all kinds of stuff firing back here. I'm like a daggum NASA controller.
Buddy.
Well, the action steps, like
action steps. Let's hit with the leadership action steps first. Set the stage, right? Like everything about what culture building is setting the stage for life to happen. We talk about culture being a garden. Can you dig it? You know, like it's all about setting the right culture, the right environment so that good growth can happen, which means you're going to need to allocate some budget for resource tools for AI, right? Like you're going to need to put those resources out so that people can actually use this stuff. Yes, there are free versions, but when you see its capability, and of course, the free version is never as tough and as good as the upgraded version. And we try to get 9 free tools to work together, and then you just wasted time. It's like the whole, you're missing the point, right? And they're not terribly expensive. So being able to get a good budget for some of that stuff. And hey, if you're not sure what kind of a budget to figure, go to AI. Ask it. Or also, like, maybe understand that everyone's trying to figure this one out right now. Okay. Yeah. But it isn't just an add-on to what we're doing. Sometimes it can help take away other things and other resources we don't need anymore. Okay. So have that kind of an analyzing going on at the same time. The other thing is having a good form to get feedback. So especially as you're jumping into something, I would say create a regular feedback loop to, hey, once every Friday, we're going to hop on, share some of this stuff, go through best practices. That's kind of like one of the next one is lead by example by openly sharing your experiences. Having a place, having a scheduled time to do that is going to give everyone the muscle memory of, hey, this is a real thing. They're really pushing this. If you're like, we should use AI and that's it, people aren't going to trust it. They're not going to believe that it's actually happening. You do this over and over and over, and people say, hey, this is part of the process now. I guess we really do need to pay attention. Okay. So if you don't have consistency, you don't have reliability, you don't have a new policy. Okay. And it's not going to happen. And last, for leaders, again, this is kind of trailblazing. So I would encourage, if you're a journaler or if you're not, become one, start to dive into documenting what those experiences are so that you can push this stuff out later on and learn from mistakes, right? We all understand the whole, like, the history repeats itself. It does when we don't learn from it. Okay. So that's like the whole big idea is we want to learn from these mistakes, from the successes, from the vanilla to the creative, right?
Yeah. I'm going to say here too, for our action steps for team members, I'm just going to give you one, and because it's a big one that I'm super passionate about. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I'll just have AI come up with all the ideas. And if you go back and listen to our first episode in this series, 2 episodes ago, episode 71, Blake and I shared our thoughts on, it's not a replacement in our brain power, right? We don't want to lose that muscle of our brain, but we can use it to help prompt some things. Think of it as you're going to the gym, right? And you need to lift weights to exercise those muscles. Well, you wouldn't just stand there and move your arms up and down. You'd put some weights into it, right? You need a prompt. The weights are the prompt, right? You need a prompt to help you build that muscle. So AI and brainstorming can be used as a prompt for the ideas, not necessarily for the ideas. Sure, you can ask it for ideas, but I think it would be better is, hey, give me 10 ideas to prompt my thinking as me and my team are developing this problem, and the problem is X.
Yeah.
Okay. Give it those types of ideas. And so when it comes to brainstorming, don't divvy it all up or unload it all to AI, but use it to help you spin the wheel of creativity, to spin the wheel of brainstorming. Overall team actions, you can create the innovation time like we talked about earlier. These are some dedicated hours each week for experimenting with AI tools. There's no risk involved. You might not want to spend the time, which is the money, on doing this, but doing this will give you an advantage in the long run, which will help you scale quicker and easier because you've spent the time doing, and you've spent the investment, like Blake talked about before, in doing this. Also, start a shared knowledge library of AI best practices and lessons learned. Could be a Google folder, could be a Google Doc, could be a Slack channel. Hey, this is a great thing I found. Use this here. You could have a whole channel dedicated on your Google Chat or your Slack or whatever you use for that. Create a whole thread for it. You have everything there, and you're like, oh man, that's a great idea. I'm going to use that. You really start to sharing those ideas adjacent to creativity, right? Sharing those ideas really helps enhance the creativity of your team. And like we've said all along, do this stuff gradually. Don't jump into, all just head first in the shallow end and everybody gets hurt, right? Just do this stuff gradually, test and see. You don't want to risk company assets on it, like hard, big assets. You just want to kind of test the waters on it and gradually ease into it with some low stake projects. Doing these things will help take your creativity to the next level in your organization. And we know, Blake, that a creative organization is a scalable organization, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, next week, we're going to get real heady. We're done with our series now of AI, but now next week, we're going to talk about the importance of psychological safety in the workplace. It's super important that people feel safe in the workplace. And a lot of times, it's not necessarily the physical dangers like, hey, I'm afraid I might get hurt on this machine, or these steps are icy when I was walking up to the front door. It's more psychological now, more than ever, of am I going to be mentally abused in this environment? And so we want to be able to set the tone there, because if that's the case in your environment, even if it's perceived, nothing will kill your culture faster and nothing will squander your scalability faster. So we'll talk about that next time, episode 74 on the Culture Base podcast. We'll talk to you.